Hi guys, I just want to read some stories by O. Henry and let's get started. The first one, The Cope and the Anthem. On his bench in Madison Square, Soapy moved uneasily. A dead leaf fell onto his arm. Winter was coming and Soapy knew that he must make his plans and therefore moved unhappily on his seat. The ambitions of Soapy were not very high. He did not dream about the Mediterranean cruises or southern skis. 3 months on the island was what his soul wished. 3 months of assured board and bed and congenial company seemed to Soapy the essence of things desirable. For years, the hospitable prison had been his winter quarters, and now the time was come because at night on his seat in the square, 3 newspapers did not keep out the cold. So Soapy decided to go to the prison and at once began to try his first plan. It was usually easy. There were many easy ways of doing this. The pleasantest was to dine luxuriously at some expensive restaurant. He ate dinner in an expensive restaurant. Then he told them he had no money and they called the policeman. Nice and easy, with no trouble. Soapy left his bench and walked slowly along the street where Broadway and Fifth Avenue flow together. Up Broadway he turned and halted at the glittering cafe. Soapy had confidence in himself from the lowest button on his vest upward. He was shaven, and his coat was decent, and his neat black tie had been presented to him by a lady missionary on Thanksgiving Day. If he could reach a table in the restaurant, unsuspected success would be his. The portion of him that would slow above the table would raise no doubt in the waiter's mind. He just had to get to a table in the restaurant and sit down. That was all, because when he sat down, people could only see his coat and his skirt, which were not very old. Nobody could see his trousers. Roasted duck with a bottle of wine and then cheese, a cup of coffee and a cigar. $1 for the cigar would be enough. The meat would leave him feel and happy for the journey to his winter refuge. But when Soapy went into the restaurant, the waiter's eye fell up Soapy's dirty old trousers and thick damp shoes. Strong and ready hands turned him around, helped him out into the street again. Soapy turned off Broadway, so now he had to think something different. Soapy walked away from Broadway and soon he found herself on the 6th Avenue. He stopped in the front of Soap window and looked at it. It was nice and bright, and everybody in the street could see him. Slowly and carefully, he picked up a stone and threw it at the window. The glass broke with a loud noise. Soapy stood still with his hands in his pockets and smiled at the sight of brass buttons. Where's the man that done that? inquires the officer ex- excitedly. He stood there and his hands in his pockets and smiled. "Perhaps I did," said Soapy, not without sarcasm but friendly. The policeman mind refused to accept Soapy even as a clue. Men who smashed windows do not do not remain to chat with the police officers. They run away. And just then the policeman saw another man who was running to catch a bus, so the policeman ran after him. Soapy watched for a minute, and then he walked away. No luck again. Soapy, with disgust in his heart, walked away twice unsuccessful. On the opposite side of the street, the little restaurant Soapy entered. This time nobody looked at his trousers and his shoes. At the table he sat and consumed beef steaks, flapjacks, donuts, and pie. He enjoyed his meal, then he looked up at the waiter, smiled, and said, "Haven't got any money, you know. I called the cop. And do it quickly. Don't keep a gentleman waiting." "No cops for you," said the waiter, with a voice like buttered cakes and a knife like the cherry in the cocktail. "Hey, Colm." Another waiter came, and together they threw Soapy out into the cold street. Soapy lay there, very angry. With difficulty he arose and beat the dust from his clothes. Arrest seemed but a rosy dream. The island seemed very far away. A policeman who stood before a drugstore 2 doors away laughed and walked down the street. 5 blocks Soapy trailed before tried again. This time it looked easy. A young woman of the more modest guise was standing before a show window, and 2 yards from the window a large policeman leaned against the waiter plaque. So he went towards the young woman. He saw that the policeman was watching him. Then he said to the young woman with a smile, "Why don't you come with me, my dear? I can give you a good time." The policeman was still looking. In a minute she would call the policeman. Soapy could almost see the prison doors. The young woman faced him and, stretching out a hand, caught Soapy's coat sleeve. "Sure, Mike," she said joyfully. "If you buy me a drink. I wanted to speak to you sooner, but the cop was watching." Poor Soapy walked away with the young woman, who still held on to his arm. Never going to prison, he thought. At the next corner he shook off his companion and ran. Slowly he walked the came and came to a street with a lot of theaters. There were a lot of people there, rich people in their best clothes, so he had to do something to get to prison. He didn't want to spend another night on his seat in Madison Square. What could he do? And he saw a policeman near him, so he began saying. He danced, howled, waved, and otherwise disturbed the welcome. The The policeman turned his back to Sophie and remarked to the citizen, "It's one of Yale's students celebrating the victory of the Hartford College in football. Noisy, but no harm. With instructions not to take them." So he stopped making a noise. How could he get to prison? The wind was cold, the button, and he buttoned his thin coat against the chilling wind. In a cigar store, he saw a well-dressed man lighting a cigar. His silk umbrella he had set by the door on entering. So he stepped inside, picked up the umbrella, and began to walk away slowly. When followed hastily. "My umbrella," he said sternly. "Oh, is it?" sneered Sophie. "Well, why don't you call a policeman?" "I took it, your umbrella. Why don't you call a cop?" There stands one on the corner. There's one on the corner. The policeman looked at him curiously. "Of course," said the umbrella man. "That's, well, know how to these mistakes occur. I, if it's your umbrella, I hope you will excuse me. I picked up this morning at the restaurant. If you recognize it as yours, why, I hope you, of course it's mine," said Sophie. We, we seriously, the umbrella man walked away. The policeman hurried to assist a tall blondie to cross the road. Sophie was really angry now. He threw the umbrella away. He muttered against the men who wear helmets and carry clubs. He wanted to go to prison, and they regard him as a king who could do nothing wrong. He began to walk back to Madison Square and home, his park bench. But on the quiet corner, Sophie suddenly stopped. Here was an old church. Through a purple window, a soft light glowed, and sweet music was coming from inside the church. The moon was above. Lustrous and serene. Vehicles and pedestrians were few, and the anthem that the organist played cemented Soapy to the iron fence. For Soapy remembered other, happier days. He thought of the days when he had a mother and friends and beautiful things in his life. The music from the old church made a sudden and wonderful change in his soul. He viewed with swift horror the pit into which he had tumbled, the degraded days, unworthy desires, and dead hopes. And then a wonderful thing happened. Soapy decided to change his life and be a new man. He will pull himself out of the mire. He will conquer the evil that had taken possessions of him. A fur importer had once offered him a place as driver. A fur importer had once offered him a place as driver. He will find him tomorrow and ask for the position. He will be somebody in the world. He will. Soapy left a hand laid on his arm. He looked quickly around into the broad face of a policeman. "What are you doing here?" asked the officer. "Nothing," said Soapy. "Then come along," said the policeman. 3 months on the island, said the magistrate in the police court the next morning. That's probably it for today. Let's continue tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.